I'm your host, Davida Shinsky, and you're listening to Live Without Limits Dreams Come True with the Right Mindset. And today's presentation is titled Why Self Worth Matters and How to Recognize and Improve It. Self worth is a sensitive topic and a very important one at this moment. But unlike other equally sensitive and important topics like religion and politics, the majority of the population lack the fundamental knowledge and convictions that suit it. Self worth matters not just because it sounds cool to say, I know my self worth, but because it determines how you think and act, which ultimately influences the outcome of your life. What is self worth? When you ask people what they think self worth is, the answer you most likely get is self worth is about how I feel about myself. That is, it is about me loving myself. They are right in this sense, but you will start realizing the issue with their understanding of what self worth is when you inquire by what yardstick they base that love on. Why do they love themselves? Or what makes them love themselves? While it might look simple on the surface, this can be a tricky question to answer. So I'll use little examples to explain. Imagine two young men. Let's first call the first one John and the second one Sam. John is an affluent businessman who lots of money, cars, and ladies around him, while Sam is a minimalist, an artist who vagabonds and makes just enough money to stay out of the streets. Sam also has no girlfriend or any friends really. He simply goes about making art. Yet, surprisingly, John is a whole lot dissatisfied with his life. In fact, he most of the time battles with imposter syndrome because his he feels that he doesn't deserve the company that his dad left him. And he's beginning to get sick and tired of all the ladies constantly flocking around him, seeking to take selfies in his new car, utterly ignoring him while doing all of this. To John, everyone around him only cares about the things that he has, but lacks any real value or respect for him. So he doubts his own worth. On the other hand, Sam is having the time of his life. To Sam, the arts and travels are what he lives for. Sam knows that he has a lot of art and creativity to offer to the world. In fact, he knows that the few clients and fans that he is able to garner all value his and think that he has a special gift to the world. So even though Sam struggles and makes it through each week, he feels very important and thinks he is very, very much valued. From the illustration above, it is easy to see where the fault has with the people's definition of self worth, while the knee jerk definition of worth or value is strongly tied to external events and objects. The true definition of self worth is rather internal and intrinsic. People who have a healthy sense of self worth don't love themselves because of external metrics like grades, income, physical appearance, status, or title, occupation, age, social media following, or the number of real friends, or any other external factor. That is, any other factor that is subject to other people's perception, judgment, or opinion. People who have a healthy sense of self worth base their love on the fact that they are simply humans, lovable and valuable despite their imperfections and shortcomings. A person with a healthy self worth believes that they are individuals and have a lot to offer, even if they may not be able to measure up to others in a competition. In essence, they do not base their value on comparisons, but on their own intrinsic value as humans. While this might sound like self delusion, at best and narcissism at worst, it is none of these. It is not about becoming self centered, but realizing that you are as valuable as the next person, despite having a different upbringing, status, or anything else in life. Children get this. Kids know that they are valuable. And knowing this, they love themselves, which then pushes them to do and be more despite the odds. They believe that they can do and be anything. They also value other kids likewise. The problem with defining self worth is based on anything external, is that these measures are extremely precarious. Though undesirable, you likely might, at one point or another in your life, lose your job, go broke, lose friends, lose status, lose fans, grow old, or experience something similar. What then happens when any of those happen? Do you become less worthy or valuable? This is the problem with basing self worth on anything external, even if it is something that you're extremely proud of. Love for oneself needs to be built on firm foundation, and that is why self worth should simply be about you and not what you measure up to, not what other people consider to be success or failure. Why is self worth important? Self worth is very important for a many different reasons. They the thing is that if someone doesn't love themselves, then they won't be motivated to take care of themselves or even accomplish much. In extreme cases, a lack of self worth can lead to anxiety, addiction, relationship issues, depression, or even suicide. When people don't value themselves, they tend to distract themselves with substances, don't go out to compete, or also sabotage themselves when they eventually succeed. In relationships, people with low self worth tend to compensate by going for people who they think can do the things that they feel they can't. They become dependent or they look for someone who appears inferior to them, which helps them salve their ego with the knowledge that someone is beneath them. And any of both combinations lead to toxic relationships. In the professional life, people with good self-worth often take to take on audacious tasks because they believe in their knowledge, skill, and capacity to learn how to solve unanticipated problems, while at the same time, those who lack the self worth would decline, sometimes fearing that they may not measure up or might embarrass themselves. In general, people with healthy self worth understand that they are flawed but love themselves anyway, which means that they are realistic about their expectations, both of about themselves and others and don't mind failing. They are not delusional, but are rather able to separate their worth from results which are many times out of their total control. So, how to improve self worth? Improving self worth is all about the 1-2 punch of unconditional love and doing your best, especially in activities that you love. Improving self worth for kids can be as simple as expressing unconditional love towards them and giving them the room to try and fail and try again until they succeed. It is about letting the kid know that the results don't dent their worth and still giving them the push and motivation to take on more tasks for themselves. For adults, it can be a little more complicated, and this is because people who struggle with self worth at an older age, or those who have experienced a lot of conditional love, setbacks, and restrictions early on in life. So, what this means is that they have a lot of avoiding and unwinding to do. First task is to build up their unconditional self love. The first step that you need to realize is that loving yourself is as simple as transferring the amount of care and attention that you would give to a best friend to yourself. It means cutting off the negative self talk and encouraging yourself with positive affirmations that are believable to you. Remember, it is not about the other people you see, but how you see and treat yourself. It means that you'd have to trust yourself and be about your decisions along the way. You have to love yourself enough to accept that your delusions and actions were the best choices that you could make based on your current disposition. This is crucial because when others decide for us, we feel out of control and less important. Therefore, we must learn to decide, stick, and sit with the decision. Furthermore, you'd have to be bold enough to take risks and see them through. All these boils down to the changing of the inner voice in your head. It is about accepting yourself for what and who you are and what you're capable of. In a nutshell, you can start improving your feeling of self worth by engaging in positive affirmations, accepting compliments, stopping the habit of self criticism and self loathing, staying away from toxic people, and keeping track of your achievements and accomplishments. Doing all of these would eventually improve your self-worth over time. But if you still struggle with seeing your self-worth, then you might want to consider signing up for therapy. And many a times, how you look at yourself and how you see yourself, it all starts in childhood. And that, if you go back and listen to what they say in transactional analysis about the adult, the parent, and the child, the adult says, I am able to. The parent says, you should. And the child says, I want. And when you list all of the things that you said that you wanted as a child, all the things your parents told you you were capable of doing, look at where the conflict is, and then look at how you took and internalized that as an adult and told yourself what you were truly capable of doing. And when you compare those, that's where you can see where your changes are and how to make those changes and make them to the point that you have learned to care about yourself and to show yourself self-love.